I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me.
What does it mean Messiah matters?
It means apart from him we can do nothing. It means he is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeshua is the only way of salvation. He is everything. We have to have the Tanakh to know the Messiah.
But we have to have the Messiah to know the Tanakh. Without Messiah, we have nothing.
Basically, it's all about the Messiah. It's Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. This is Messiah Matters number 224. Surprised and humbled at 2,000 subscribers. My name is Caleb Hegg, and with me, a man that could be considered the perfect house guest, Rob Van Hove. What up, Rob? How's it going, brother?
Hey, Caleb. You really think so? You guys, I should say this, you guys are awesome.
You guys are awesome.
You guys are awesome. Or I was just like, I felt like you guys, it was just a safe place to just relax and unwind.
Good.
No pressure. It was just like
kids climbing all over
mi casa, su casa, kind of thing. It was awesome.
We have
your kids are hilarious. Your kids are smart. They're smart. They're hilarious. And yeah,
we had Rob come over and stay at our house. Hang on just a sec. I did a disservice to our producers. Hang on just a sec. I apologize, producers. I wonder if I can do this while we're live. Let's try it and find out.
Also, I'm not hearing audio from your clips, or anything, so that's okay.
You're not hearing audio from my clips, eh? Problems.
So,
well,
no worries. If we don't, are we listening to the audio today?
Actually, yeah, we are. Hang on just a sec. Why aren't you hearing audio? Well, the problem is that if I switch over to you, I'm going to lose you in my video. So, what can you do? Okay, let's try this again. There's my associate producer. There are my executive producers. All right. Okay.
Thanks for your support, everybody.
You're buzzing. We got audio problems. Okay, so while Rob's fixing his buzzing, I'm on a loop now too. While Rob's fixing his audio problems,
how's that? Check.
Better, thank you. What we were talking about is Rob and his son Andrew came over. They stayed with my family here in Tacoma, Washington, for what? 4 nights, 3 nights. 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah.
And this was all because another employee at TorahResource, which is Michael Gonzalez, his daughter was getting married to Andre Philippe. And Andre has been on our show before as kind of to help promote TorahResource Institute. Oh, I apologize.
That's caller number 1.
Dude, that would be awesome. And we've started a call-in show. Sorry about that. See, there's so many different things that I have to do to prepare for this show. Anyway, so Rob came over for this beautiful wedding, which took place on Sunday. It was a gorgeous day out. Beautiful wedding. How many people do you think were there? What, 200 people?
Yeah, 200 plus.
200 plus. And it was just a really great time. We had a really fun time. And the nice thing is that, my children are basically with either my wife or I or both all the time, 24/7, 365. I wouldn't necessarily consider us helicopter parents, but we're pretty close. And so our children are with us. We don't really have, babysitters. We don't hire babysitters often or anything like that. And we actually dropped the kids off at Grandma's house, which was right down the road. My wife's parents lived about 5 minutes from that venue. And so that was really nice. Okay, hang on just a sec. Let's see if I have... I'm going to try to get you audio real quick here. I wonder if what's going to you to Skype. And I have that. Yes, I do not know. Well, should I stop your video for a few seconds and try to figure it out? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Let's talk about. Hang on. I know exactly what I'm gonna do now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a topic. You're going to talk about that topic, and while you talk about that topic, I'm going to put up the Messiah Matters banner, and I'm going to try to fix the audio so that you can hear stuff. So let's see here. Okay, well, actually, let's just get into this real quick because, well, you're going to have to hear this. Okay, Deanne writes, here we go. Deanne writes, enjoy the podcast. The idea the Romans passage is about that time is something I had understood as well. That sentence, I still haven't been able to figure out exactly what she means, and I apologize for that. But I think what she's getting at is we talked last week about Romans 13 and the idea that the government, it's not talking about the government. No, rather it's talking about synagogue officials, or perhaps even better stated, community officials. And this is kind of what we chatted about. Now, before we get into this, let's give people some contact information so they can contact us. Comment line is 253-465-3205, and 253-465-3205. And you can email us to cheg@TorahResource.com, cheg@TorahResource.com. I should also say that in our show notes, which you can find at TorahResource.com, then hover over TR Radio, go down to Messiah Matters. You can sign up on the Messiah Matters page for our show notes. That's something you should do because we send out information and we send out questions. This week we linked to a conversation on Facebook, and the conversation on Facebook is talking about our main topic today. And it's been a really good conversation. And so it's, these kind of things are actually kind of what help fuel our show. Anyway, so this is off topic, but from the main topic today. But she's talking about Romans 13. She says, yet we also can take that and apply it today to our own communities and leaderships, which to me is not just the local synagogue or church, but our nation's leaders. I disagree with that.
Well, wait a minute. What is? I'm not catching her point that you disagree with. What specifically?
So I think what she's saying, and I could be wrong about this, but I think what she's saying is that Romans 13, 1-7 applies to the U.S. government or wherever you might live, whatever government you live under. Now, later on in this comment, she does say, I think that we should, I think we should respect and honor the laws of the land unless they go contrary to Torah. And for the most part, I would probably agree with that. Once again, we don't get into politics on this show, and I think for good reasons. But there's a perfect example, and I'll try to be as there's gray lines in this theory, though. And for instance, I'll give you a good one. My father just received the new curriculum that will be rolled out for second graders, that's 7 years old, on sexual education in the public schools here in University Place, which is the city that our congregation Beit Hillel meets in. And within this, it is stuff that I think would make a married couple that has been married for 30 years blush. It's talking about how things feel and how things work, and it's very explicit. There's props and all sorts of things that are supposed to be shown to 7-year-olds, and along with that comes LGBT and all sorts of other horrible things. It's perverted. It's disgusting. Now, with that said, when we talk about government, the government of Washington State steals my money each year through taxes to fund their schools, which now go to this kind of education. So I don't have a choice whether or not my tax dollars go to help educate 7-year-olds on sexually explicit material. That, in my mind, is a problem, and I have nothing. I can't do or say anything about it. The only thing I can do is try to vote. I live in Washington State, probably one of the more liberal places in all of the United States. So, I mean, the chances of me getting conservative leadership here is almost none. So how do you respect it? And the same could be said about abortion. Our money, our tax dollars goes to killing children. So I don't, how do we reconcile these things? I don't know. Okay, let's keep going with the comment, and then I'm gonna switch over to a banner so that I can try to fix your audio. This subject has gotten a lot of back and forth at the place I fellowship, with some even suggesting that the church, this is in quote marks, the church, as in building, the building is a separate entity than church represented by the people in them. The idea that the common people were not part of the priesthood and had to pay the temple tax as well as follow the leadership of the day. Would you comment on that and at some point if possible? Is there a separation between church building and authority and the assembly of people that make up the body of Messiah? I'm of the opinion that we are to follow the laws of the land unless or until they try and make me go against my faith in Yeshua and the following of his righteous instructions. I don't think I can really comment to government, because I think that the government is quite corrupt on any. I've just stated two things that I think they're forcing me to do things that I don't find to be biblically sound. When it comes to church and the assembly, I'm going to let you take this. My personal opinion is that the building means nothing. You can meet in a basement.
Okay, well, go ahead and do the transition, and I'll
go for it. Go for it.
If I'm understanding the message, what I'm hearing is that the building and those who fund the building, right? And then the local codes mean the building has to have this kind of access and this kind of etc. This much capacity in terms of how many people, and you have to have this much insurance, and you have all that kind of stuff that goes into it, and then maybe there's a lease involved. So all these things are obligations that need an entity, an accountable entity, from the perspective of the insurance company, from the perspective of the landlord, and from the perspective of the government. And so it's true that entity is not any one person, probably. And so, yeah, I mean, you could have people, 1 year, you could have the leadership of a building.
Hang on just a sec. Wait. You're starting to buzz here.
Okay, how's that?
Better. Adam Smith says, vote harder next time. Yeah, exactly. Keep going.
Anyway, so the idea is, you could have a complete changeover of personnel at a church.
Right.
But from the government perspective and from the insurance company perspective, it's the same entity.
Right.
Right. But you could have a new pastor, new staff, completely new group of people under the same name, and the entity's the same. So yeah, they're two separate things in that regard. One comment back if we look back in the ancient world, the rise of these discipleship communities of Yeshua that we call the rise of Christianity, in many times there were wealthy donors, there were wealthy patrons that owned a home, and then people would come who didn't own homes,
right,
would come and gather there, and they were like little home bases, or they would maybe commission a copying of the Bible or something like that, because you'd have not a lot of wealthy people, but you'd have some wealthy people that would come to faith, and then they, by what God had blessed them with, and also gave them wisdom to manage, would be to help this grow. And so I think a lot of that is still true today, that, it's like TorahResource, right? I mean, we're operating off the generous support of people who want to encourage us and want to help us thrive. And so, and the reason I zero in on that is because that's where the people who are able to give and promote usually have to have their own dealing with the government. If they're in America, I don't know. Maybe there's a place where people have a lot of money and they don't owe anybody taxes. But I think that's probably not true.
Okay, hang on just a sec. This is a good time to stop and explain this. Would you please change or fix your audio again, because it sounds like the chat room says sounds like Rob is eating Rice Krispies, which is true.
That?
Better. Okay. So this is a perfect time. Thank you for. I agree with you. So there is this disconnect kind of between church and state, at least in America. But this is a perfect time to tell you what's going on with Rob's audio. We think that Rob has a bad board, and that's unfortunate because he's currently using a USB board, and we've done a lot of different tests this past week. And right now, basically, our fix is until we have the money to buy him a new board, we basically have to, every time he starts to crackle, we have to switch to a different input and then switch back to his mic input.
I think it clicks every time I shift it too.
Yeah, see, so that's the sound. Anyway, so he this is the issues that we're having with Rob's audio right now. But with all of that said, we need to thank some people. First of all, we have, for those who might have seen it, this show is brought to you by our executive producers. Our executive producers who came in again this pay period, this quarter, Bob and Larue Miller. We thank you very much for supporting TorahResource. They are our summer's current executive producers. If you'd like to be an executive producer and or an associate producer, like our associate producer, Gary Elkins, then you can do so by going to TorahResource.com, hover over TR Radio, go down to Messiah Matters, and there's this thing that pops out before you click it that says credited producers. If you click on that, all the information is there, and learn how you can become accredited accredited producer of Messiah Matters. And we certainly do thank you very much, everyone who supports Messiah Matters. And then also, the people who really keep all of this going is not only our associate and our executive producers, but also our supporters. And our supporters are those who have decided to partner with us with a monthly donation. And you can do that as little as $5 a month. That's right, for as little as the price of a box of Q-tips. Less than the price of a box of Q-tip, you can go ahead and help us by going and supporting us $5 a month or more. And these people are the people who actually help us pay for internet, help us pay for all the programs that we're using, help us pay for the equipment that we're using. And hopefully, if we get a little bump this month, then we'll try to get Rob a new board. And hopefully all these problems will be fixed. It sounds like you're still on. Say something real quick, Rob.
Testing.
Yeah, you're still on. You're still on your camera mic.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. I was gonna wait and then back like that. Now
there you go. Good. Okay, let's move on. And yeah, we will say some more thank yous here in a little bit. But for now, let's move on. This could be a really long one. Should we do our main topic first and then move to CJ's question?
Let's go to our main topic, because we usually let's try to shift things up.
Okay, let's do it. So the main question, or the main, and this actually, so Rob texts me and he says, look, there's, let's do a top 10 Hebrew roots / Messianic conspiracies. What are the top 10 Hebrew roots Messianic conspiracies? Now I texted him back and I said, we already did that show, right? We did that. I don't remember what show it was, but it was probably 50 shows ago or so. And it was the top 10 biggest distractions of the Hebrew roots / Messianic movements. And he wrote back and said, oh, okay, fine. Now I think since that time, I don't think that we actually went in order. They weren't in order. They were just top 10 distractions. And so I thought, okay, this isn't a bad idea. We can go back and visit these things again. But let's be a little bit more specific. What do we think are the actual top 3? Let's go with the top 3 Messianic conspiracies. Now, and when I say Messianic, I'm also lumping in Hebrew roots. Now, what do we mean by conspiracy? This is a great question. Somebody brought this up on the Facebook page. Conspiracy can mean Andrew in the chat room, good one. He says flat earth, paleo, Hebrew, raw diet. Nice. Basically,
Is there a paleo Hebrew diet?
there should be.
There's a paleo diet.
Go
There's paleo Hebrew.
chat room. You still sound like you're eating still sound like you're eating Rice Krispies. Okay. So basically, what's a conspiracy? Conspiracy could be just about anything that that people try to pawn off as true or not true that is otherwise true or untrue. That's how I'm classing conspiracy. Now, it could also be distractions. We'll see what Rob came up with. And I know that Rob turned into the guy who's, oh, my dog ate my homework this morning. He was like, oh, I didn't write down my 3. I worked on this like a lot yesterday, so I feel slighted. Okay, let's start with number 3. Now, mine are in order, and they're in order for a very, very specific reason. Would you like me to go first with number 3, or would you like to go first with number 3?
With 3. Go first.
Okay. My number 3 conspiracy is the deity of Yeshua. That is the idea that Yeshua is not Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. I think that is the 3rd largest conspiracy. And it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem in the Hebrew Roots Messianic movement. Christianity doesn't seem to be... I mean, sure, there is Unitarianism. And this is the exact same thing. As you know, the debate that's going on in the Hebrew Roots Messianic, but it doesn't really seem to be gaining a whole lot of traction in the Christian realm, right? I mean, you have Mormonism, Mormons, you have the Mormonism, and they have a whole different view and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's number 3, and I think it's number 3 for a very specific reason, because number 2 and number 1. But number 3 is deity of Messiah, and I think that this is starting to seep in all over the place. And this could, on our Facebook page, a lot of people well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. One person put Trinity, the denial of the Trinity. And I think that this could be classed in the same way. Denying the deity of the Messiah / denying the Trinity. Thoughts?
I'm going to flip back. Hopefully that'll be clean audio for a while. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think I was thinking about this. I didn't write down notes, but we get to the edge of where people think about reason. They say, okay, I want to have reason. And then they think I need to have faith. So there's a realm of faith and there's a realm of reason. And so people will say, oh, it's illogical. It's illogical to say that Yeshua is deity.
Right.
And therefore, it doesn't make sense. It seems to be against the Shema, right? You'll see that sort of thing.
Right.
So kind of a reasoned argumentation that then intersects with the faith claim. And then you'd have the scriptures. Each side can have scriptures to support. Like someone could cite the Shema and say, oh, see, he's one. Yeshua can't be part of that. And then you'll have people cite scriptures that says Yeshua is Elohim, or he is the Word made flesh, and they'll use those scriptures to support. Well, I'm on the side that Yeshua is absolutely 100% man and 100% God.
Right.
And I think when it comes to atonement, and understanding the nature of our redemption from sin, there, and in addition to all the scriptures, that why does at the end of Matthew 28 have Yeshua instructing his disciples to baptize people in the name of the Father and the Son and the Ruach HaKodesh.
Right.
There is, we're from the beginning, we're given that map. This is your map. This is the way to understand this. And anyway,
I think that people may be surprised by the fact that I put this as number 3. This is actually methodical. Deity was number 1 on my list, and the more I kept looking at it, and the more I kept pondering what are the biggest conspiracies, I realized that this view actually comes from two other things. So what's number 3 for you?
My number 3 would be, well, it's kind of
you're on the wrong board.
Kind of a blend. It's between, I don't need to tell you who did the scholarship. In other words, I'm gonna try to sell you a package of scholarship without putting the author's name on it, and under the idea that is somehow best for the body of Messiah, that somehow the body of Messiah benefits from getting teachings without a person that is actually accountable, to that teaching. And the side of that is that I don't really need to have real teachers, right? So from this, it's like, I just got.
So
this
hang on, just like that. That's not one.
No, but they're two sides of the same coin. The idea is that from the student perspective, I'm just learning. I don't know who I'm learning from, but it's just content, and I'm learning. So I don't matter who my teachers are. And from the teacher's perspective, it's I'm just going to put stuff out there, but I'm not going to put my name on it because.
See, I think that we've seen this. We've seen this recently. A lot of the whole I'm not gonna put my name on this, or
or a translation, and you don't
right.
It's like, who did the translation? Well,
so we actually see this. We see this a lot on websites, right? And this is just a tell. It is a tell in my book. You go onto a website, a ministry's website, right? What's the first thing? Maybe this is a good question to ask people. What's the first thing you look for when you go to a ministry's website?
I go to, who is the teacher? Who is it?
The first thing I go to is about us or about me, and I look at who is teaching, who's on staff, and what their background is.
Exactly.
And then what their statement of faith is.
If I can't find that in just a minute, I'm gone.
Gone. Yeah, and I think there's two sides to this coin of not wanting to put your name on anything. First of all, it's I'm not trained well enough, and I don't know. I'm not going to stand by what I've said. I don't want to get blasted for what I've said. I think that's probably one of them. And then the other one is, I've heard this. The teaching is more important than the people, which really is just a way to hide from being challenged. I'm sorry, it is. To say, the teaching's more important than the person. No, if you're going to stand by the truth, stand by the truth. You didn't have the reformers sitting out there going, I'm going to write a Bible, but I'm not going to put my name on it because I might get burned at the stake. These people got burned at the stake. And yet, people today, they want to hide behind their keyboards. It's really frustrating. This is my personal opinion, and I'm not trying to, people are going to disagree with me on this one. But if you go to a website and you can't figure out who is teaching that on that website, what their name is, what their background is, leave. Just leave. There's no reason to stay on a place where people don't put their name on the work that they do,
especially if they're asking for money.
Right.
If someone, it just seems like, it's this kind of ministry or something, and there's a donate here button, but you can't find out who it is.
Right.
That's difficult for me to understand how that would be.
Well, and not only that, in my opinion, I mean, personally, I completely and fully admit that I have learned a lot in the past. How many years have we been doing this show? 2014? Since 4 years. That's right, 4 years. In the 4.5 years that we've been doing this show, I have really learned a lot, and I have changed my views on certain things. I've questioned some major doctrines, and I've had to be corrected several times just on the content of this show. But the thing is that if I wouldn't have put my name on it, if no one knew who was talking here, I mean, why would you listen to that? even if you're going to be wrong at some point, stand by what you believe.
Well, here's a flip side of this. I know we're dwelling on number 3 here for me, but on Facebook, I'll get a bunch of like friend requests, and I'll go and look at these websites,
right?
And or these Facebook, and I'm like, this is not a real person. This is absolutely not a real person. It's like someone's manufacturing Facebook identities, and then they go in and they post comments. And It's like, this is the same thing. It's like I can go and post an opinion, but it's a code word. It's not really me. So we have this separation between. It's like, what I think we need to encourage is ownership, personal ownership. Yeshua said, to him who has more will be given. To him who has not, even what he thinks he has will be taken away. We need to take that seriously. You need to know what you own when it comes to what you believe, what your convictions are, your skills that God's given you, the competencies that you develop as you pursue excellence in a field. Ownership. I mean, the worst thing is, let's say you buy an appliance or something, and something goes wrong with the appliance, and you call, and you're just never ending on hold listening to elevator music, and you can never find anybody to help you with your appliance because there's no. What are you going to do? That's really frustrating. But what if you can call the person directly who built your appliance, or and say, hey, something's wrong, and they can help you with it, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about real ownership.
Gary says, and this is a great comment, isn't this problem really what fuels social media in general? Being able to say things anonymously. And then Andrew says, Gary, well, it also helps actual friends connect, but nobody has 100 friends. And Gary responds, social media is not the religion of the Messianic kingdom. Boy, isn't that the truth. You're still on your other board. Okay, let's move on to number, hang on just a sec. Oh, wrong computer. This is one of the most difficult things about producing this show, is to remember that I'm actually using 2 separate computers. I have 2 mouses, 2 keyboards, and 3 screens. Okay. Number 2 for me. Now, the reason that number 3 is Deity of Yeshua is because it comes out of number 2.
Okay. So there's a logic to your...
Right. Number
like
2...
Russian dolls or whatever.
Right. Number 2 is degradation of the scriptures. In other words, now I had this debate just on Sunday at the wedding. Is the apostolic scriptures less valuable than the Torah? The person that I was talking to said yes. The apostolic scriptures cannot inform the Torah. Only the Torah can inform the apostolic scriptures. And this person said the Torah cannot inform the Tanakh. I'm sorry, vice versa. The Tanakh, the rest of the Tanakh cannot inform the Torah. Only the Torah can inform the rest of the Tanakh. So I said, so then the Torah is more important than the rest of the scriptures. He said yes. 66 books of scripture. As soon as you give up on the foundation, guess what? It all starts to crumble. If I'm willing to say that the Torah is more important than the apostolic scriptures, that's the New Testament for people who are not aware of the terminology that I use. So if I say that the Torah is more important than the New Testament, then what I've done is said that the New Testament is not as divinely inspired. God might have had something to do with it, but it's not. It could be wrong compared to the Torah. Now,
can I ask a something on there?
Yeah, of course.
Let's take the apostolic writings out for a second. Let's just look at Tanakh. So the same person would say, if all you were looking is Tanakh, your Ta is better than your Nach, right? your Torah is more important than. Okay, I understand why they're probably saying that. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, or him or her, that the Torah is foundational. The 5 books of Moses is foundational, and you can't take the foundation out of a house,
right?
Otherwise, it'll collapse. Maybe that's the thought process. I wasn't part of that conversation, but look at it this way: Jeremiah said, "Hey, you guys have the written Torah, but you broke it, and all it's doing is testifying to your sin and your death penalty."
Right.
Sure, or Isaiah, they had the written Torah, Habakkuk. Read Habakkuk. They had the Torah, but all the courts were corrupt.
Right.
So yeah, okay, sure, you can have the written Torah. No, the written Torah, we need. Well, ultimately, we need not only all the whole Bible, but we need the Ruach HaKodesh to be guiding our hearts to truth. Because look at there's the fragmentation in the Jewish world throughout history, fragmentation in the Christian world, and disputes about what this passage means or doesn't mean. Okay, well, the crisis has to do with human fallibility and depravity.
Right.
And so, yes, the Torah is perfect. No one's going to argue that, I think, in our network here. But are we understanding the scriptures from a regenerated heart?
Well, here's the other issue. Let's pretend for a few seconds that this claim is true, that the Apostolic Scriptures of the New Testament is not on the same level. It might have some divine sanction, but for the most part, the Torah is what is the biggest measuring stick, and meaning that the Apostolic Scriptures of the New Testament can be wrong. Let's pretend that that's the thought pattern here, and that it's correct. Okay, there are people out there who say, well, the rabbinic literature, the Mishnah, the Talmud, these are divinely sanctioned. They can have some problems. They're not right on everything, but God used these things to further his will and his good. Okay, so now basically what we've done is we've put the rabbinical writings on par with, because we've lowered the New Testament and brought it down in right standing. Now all of a sudden it's on par with the rabbinic writings. And now, if the New Testament or the rest of the Tanakh can be wrong, now if I don't like something, well, yeah, but it does, this kind of contradicts the Torah, so this can't be right. Now all of a sudden we're able to pick and choose of what we like and what we don't like. And what ends up happening is that personal interpretation of the Torah becomes the measuring stick.
Well, and then we have people publishing Bibles, like, believers in Yeshua, disciples of Yeshua, publishing and selling Bibles that have either taken books out or added new books.
Right.
And so a rigorous notion of canon and divine providence in the establishment of the canon is something we need to take seriously.
It is my personal opinion that if you start to give a degradation to the New Testament or to the Bible in general. Well, let's put it the other way. If you hold a high view of Scripture and you believe and rest on the 66 books of the Bible and every word therein, you cannot deny the deity of the Messiah. You can try, and people do all the time. But if you're honest with the language and what's going on, you can't deny the deity of the Messiah. Now, once again, I know that people are going to, oh, no, I that's totally wrong. Just read what Deuteronomy 6:4 says, Yes, I believe in one God. Okay, but if we take Scripture as a whole, if we're going to rest...
read what the Jehovah's Witnesses say, right?
Right, exactly. If we're going to take...
at least they're trying to anchor it on the Greek, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Not that I give credence to that opinion, but... it represents like 19th century Greek scholarship, right? It's over 100-year-old scholarship, and there were no Daniel Wallaces or
right.
other guys around, or they were around, but now the idea is dwindling. I think. Footnote on a footnote. Someone said that Mormonism is shrinking pretty rapidly, greatest shrinking. I wonder how the JWs are in numbers, if they're shrinking too. In the world of internet.
Yeah, the Mormons, they're shrinking fast. The guys on bikes.
They're all going to their planets.
Can I tell you an idea that I had for a movie? This is totally a rabbit trail like a rabbit trail's never been seen. You ready for this? My wife and I are sitting around. We're drinking some Moscow Mules, having a good night. Kids are in bed. We're discussing how Mormon missionaries could be cooler. And the idea was maybe if they rode motorcycles instead of bicycles, they got Harleys and whatnot. And then I was like, what if there was a movie about some Mormons who get into the missionary, get into their missionary assignment and decide that they don't like the traditional missionary work, MO. And so instead they make a Mormon bicycle, like bikers gang, and they go and beat up the JWs that are on their turf. I'm sorry, I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Somebody in the chat room, go. Make a movie script. Okay, what's your number 2 there, Rob?
Let's see. I was getting my audio. Hopefully that's okay. Number 2 is the idea that the Jewish scribes of the Middle Ages held to some policy of keeping the true vowels of the Tetragrammaton secret. Like they know, okay, it's really Shavah, Holam, Kamat. Like this is what they're meeting like in closed quarters, right? And they're like, okay, we all know that it's Shavah, Holam, Kamat, like Yehovah, right, or whatever. But okay, now page 1 of our manual, don't ever tell anybody.
Right.
Don't ever write it. But then somehow it slipped. Like there was a couple scribes that didn't have oversight. They accidentally let it slip through, and we have these places. And so, Jehovah and Yehovah actually is the real one. But it doesn't have to be the Yehovah group. It could be the Yahuwah group, or any of these others where there's an idea that it was withheld, and somehow knowing it is somehow power, and if you're not using it, if you're not saying it correctly, you're actually blaspheming God. So all the different things that kind of tie into that one way or another.
Yeah. But do you think that that's right? So how does that affect? How do you think that affects the body of Messiah? Now, I'm with you. I think that this is but for our listeners, I think that this is
big distraction.
It's a big distraction.
It's teaching people, especially newbies, the wrong priorities. It's getting people wrapped up into priorities that are not really that's really not where the battle is. And we're also at the same time okay. we're permitting people who are not even believers to come and shear the sheep, so to speak.
Don't you think that this ultimately what this does? It kind of is in tune with what I'm saying. Number 2 is in that. I think that it makes people begin to doubt their scriptures. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, that's, we can't really trust that. We have to, So it's really kind of tearing down the scriptures as a whole. I think there's another one that could do this, and maybe this is honorable mention on the list, but it's not on my list, but maybe it's honorable mention because I think it kind of goes in tune with this. And we saw a lot of this on the Facebook post that we had. And that is the idea that the original apostolic scriptures were written in Hebrew or Aramaic.
All right.
Because what this does is it gives doubt now. Oh, no, I can't trust my scriptures. I can't, this was written, these manuscripts were written in Greek, but it was originally written in Hebrew or Aramaic. So it probably would have said, which means that this translation isn't right. I can manipulate, the text even more. It's manipulation of text, isn't it? Okay, before we go on to the number 1 conspiracy in the Hebrew roots and Messianic movement, I want to say that Messiah Matters, this show is also brought to you by TorahResource.com. We've talked about Torah Resource already in this show, and Torah Resource is a wonderful place to find all sorts of different kinds of things. I'm going to give everyone out there a little bit of a insight into something that's coming in July. In July, we're going to run a promotion, and this is something that we don't even sell by itself. on the site. We're going to run a promotion. You can, starting in July, you can donate any amount. Donate $1. Donate any amount to TorahResource.com. And you have to get a specific link. It'll be on our homepage. But you donate any amount, and you can receive all 83 MP3s of my father's lectures on the book of Hebrews. That's right. Tim Hagg's lectures on the book of Hebrews, 83 of them. They're all about an hour to an hour and a half in length. Donate any amount, and you get all 83 of them as a gift to you. It's a huge promotion. We've never done anything like it. And you can't buy the 83 audio lectures by themselves on TorahResource.com. No, instead, if you want those 83 lectures, you have to buy the actual written commentaries with them. And so we thought, hey, you know what? Let's give people the opportunity to get all 83. And so be looking for that promotion. It'll be on TorahResource.com starting in July. And big thank you to everybody who donates. Okay. With that said, let's drum roll, please. Number 1. Now, I went in order, and the reason I went in order is because my number 3 was the deity of the Messiah, which came, I believe, from a degradation of the scriptures. Maybe I'm saying that. My wife says that on this show, I say words wrong all the time, and or I make up words that aren't really true. So maybe that's one of them. Anyway,
it's like me saying measures instead of measures.
Yes, exactly.
Measure.
Yes, yeah. Or the people on the east coast of Canada saying sorry. Anyway, so deity of Yeshua comes from, not resting on the foundation of 66 books. And that comes from number 1. And number 1 is teachers convince people that education doesn't matter. And we've seen this. Look, I have friends who do this. If I get on the internet, if I read a book or two on the subject, I'm educating myself. And now I'm an authority, now I can, in a place of authority, to be able to speak to. Now, I'm not saying that somebody has to go to university or somebody has to go to seminary. That's not what I'm saying. But sitting under various teachers who are trained in certain biblical truths and have a solid foundation in their understanding, who have taken the time to learn, who have taken the time to study, who have some formal training in, things biblical. Look, I've never gone to university. I've never gone to seminary, but I've spent the past 7 years learning under Rob and learning under my father, Tim Hagg, learning under Gary Springer, learning under Ariel Berkowitz, and it's invaluable. I'm telling you, it's changed my life and my outlook on the scriptures. And now, when in things like small, I'm part of a team that runs a small group here in Tacoma, and I got to say, every single small group, I wonder if this is going to be the week when they're going to realize I don't know what in the world I'm talking about. But then, when we're talking, it makes me realize people are asking questions that I learned in year 1. In my dad's class on how we got our Bible, or somebody will ask something about the Hebrew or the Greek, and I can, I actually know something about it. I'm not just going to Strong's numbers and looking something up. No, I actually have an idea, a grasp of what is going on. Somebody will ask something about church history, and I'm not trying to puff myself up here, because my education is far less than I'm sure many, many people out there. But what I do see happening is you have teachers who sit down, they'll read a book, or they'll ask some questions in a forum, or they'll watch an hour-long documentary or a video on YouTube, and now all of a sudden they think that they have a great knowledge of something. And what this leads to is questions about the Bible. People denying full books of the Bible like Hebrews, or people rejecting certain verses because they can't reconcile them, like John 6:3, 6:8. Or, people will say, well, I can't reconcile Paul with the apostolic scriptures. So, and we've seen this with teachers, right? They end up denying the deity of the Messiah. They end up denying the Messiah in general, becoming anti-missionaries. And what this does is this chips away at the 66 books of the Bible. Oh, the New Testament It doesn't matter. This is late. It's Greek. It comes from Rome. It's invention of the Catholic Church. The Vatican is hiding the real manuscripts. We don't, choose the flavor of conspiracy that you want to throw on to this belief. And this is what comes. So basically, I see this as a trickle-down effect. Teachers think that education isn't important, or convince other people that them not being educated doesn't matter, which then trickles down to, making it so that the foundation of our faith, that is the 66 books of Scripture, are not really the foundation. Maybe the 5 books are, or maybe the Tanakh is, but we're going to waver on some of this, which then in turn brings down the deity of the Messiah because they can't reconcile things. And then you have deity of the Messiah that is done away with. And now what are you left with? You're left with nothing. You're left with a created Messiah who is revealed in scriptures that are not good enough for us to take as scripture, who are taught by teachers who don't know what in the world they're talking about. That's my 3.
I think my top one fits right with yours, Caleb. And I don't know if it's the subtle implication. It's not necessarily the conspiracy, but it's the subtle implication that I see is despising wisdom. It's contempt for biblical wisdom. And I'll just quote 2 verses. I know Gary Springer and I love to meditate on the Proverbs and our Mishlei series. We're continuing with, but Proverbs 16, Proverbs 1:7 here. Let me just find it here. I just had it. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Right.
And it's chokmah umusar. So if those are real terms, if wisdom and discipline, which is chokmah, that's the word for wisdom, and musar, that means correction. Musar, you don't, if you've never been corrected and accepted correction, say, okay, you're right. I know I don't like being told that I was wrong. I don't like saying I was wrong, but I was wrong, and I want to do it right. If you've never experienced that, then you don't know what musar is.
Right.
And which means you're probably foolish.
Oh, you just started buzzing. Click over real quick and keep going.
Okay. If you've never been corrected, if you've never accepted correction humbly and changed your ways, if you can't look back on your life and see that in your life, then you do not know what musar is, and which means you don't know what wisdom is. And that might sound harsh. This is just what the scriptures are saying. The other is Proverbs. I mean, they go all through the scriptures. But one I like here, Proverbs 16:16. How much better it is to get wisdom than gold. How much better it is to get wisdom than gold. Well, what do you have to do to get gold in this world? Legitimately. You're not going to steal it, right? You have to work. You have to labor, right, to get something that's valuable in this world. Or, you might be Bill Gates' kid or something. Or, you might get inherited. But the idea is labor is involved. That's how we get discernment. That's how we gain wisdom, is by accepting correction, by hearing from those who have gone before us, not by separating ourselves out and setting ourselves up as if we're a teacher. Because the side point of this is, there's teachers out there that I've seen them. They're out making claims. They're on YouTube, and the audience doesn't know any better whether or not to accept or not accept what the person's teaching.
Right.
In other words, the audience is unequipped to give correction. And so take us back to number 3. It's okay to ask who a person's teachers were. So let's say you see someone, and they are putting their name out there. Oh, this is my opinion. It's okay to ask them, well, who did you learn from? Who were your teachers?
Right.
And I'm happy when someone asks me who my teachers were. It'll unpack into, well, let's talk about a specific field of study, and I'll tell you who my favorite, because I've had teachers in a very broad sense, and I could talk hours and hours and hours about what I've learned and my excitement. If you ask somebody who their teachers were and they close up and they say you're challenging their God-ordained authority, flag. We used to have a thing, the 7 flags, or, the flags of bad scholarship a couple of years ago. Maybe we should dig that out. Anyway, so I think my number one kind of gels with yours a little bit.
Absolutely. We have a very interesting conversation that's kind of going on within the chat room. And I'm actually trying to look for something in our articles archive, because I actually wrote on this, and it's here. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I do want the. So, do you have an honorable mention while I'm looking for this, Rob? Is there
honorable? Well, I would just say the honorable mention is not really. It's what do we do about it, and what we need to learn is we need to, what they say, trust but verify. That's the way. So if someone tells you something and it seems legit, say, okay, I'll hold space. I'll entertain that thought, but verify it. And you don't verify it by going to the same witness, right? I don't verify. I mean, think about just how a matter is established according to the Torah. You have to have multiple witnesses, and the witnesses need to be legitimate witnesses. Like there was the one person who teaches Yehovah, who's not a believer in Yeshua, but goes around teaching it, sent out a newsletter that says, we found this Vatican Hebrew gospel that has the vocalization Yehovah. This is another proof. He used the word proof,
right? That
the divine name is Yehovah. And there's such an idiotic claim. Let's say I wrote a manuscript in Hebrew today. Let's say I wrote a gospel in Hebrew, and then every time I put Yod He Vav He, I put Shavah Cholam Kamatz. So it said Yehovah. And let's say if the Lord tarries 200 years from now, someone finds my manuscript.
Right.
They would go, oh, here's more evidence. Here's evidence. We have more evidence that it's Yehovah. Someone 200 years ago wrote this, and it was Yehovah then, and it's still, no. That's not scholarship. That is silliness. Here's another thing. I'm going to stop there. But back to the investigate. We want to be good investigators.
Man, we don't have the sound. We don't have the soundboard anymore, so you can't do a Hoff goes off right now.
Want to be. This week's Torah portion in the 3-year cycle is tzedek, tzedek, turdorf, right? Right, tzedek you shall pursue. What does that mean? Tzedek is a kingdom value. It's a value that is precious in God's eyes, and we are to pursue it. Why do we pursue it? Because it doesn't come to you on a billboard in this world. What comes to you easily and free and on YouTube and on a billboard are advertisements, right? Things to pull your attention away. To seek God's kingdom first and his righteousness and his value system, it takes everything you got. You got to sell everything you have and buy that field. That's why it says, that wisdom is more precious than gold. Because once you have it, you don't want to lose it and you want more. But it's proper wisdom, biblical wisdom, means you're growing in your relationship with the Creator. Right. It doesn't mean sin. That's not a life of sin. That's a life of righteousness and holiness and purity and love, etc., etc. So getting clarity in what does it mean to search a matter out? What does it mean to investigate multiple independent witnesses to establish a matter? These are basics of Torah that would help us weed out a lot of this noise. That's kind of what I suggest in terms of discipleship and maturing as fruitful, brothers and sisters in Messiah.
You're back to Rice Krispies. Sorry, man.
That's all it is. It's just what is the antidote here is to grow in what it means to investigate a matter out, to understand what the nature of different witnesses are, and also don't think more highly of yourself than you ought. That's for all of us.
So I just realized that in my searching, because Dale was making some in the chat room. Dale was making some comments about the name, and actually he used some language that I wouldn't say, somewhat familiar with. And it reminded me instantly of a article that I wrote several years ago. And I looked for it on TorahResource in the articles archive, and it's not actually there. So that means that after this show, I will go and find the original and try to get it posted up in the articles. It's called The Theological Trump Card. And Dale, if you're still in the chat room, I would encourage you maybe it's 10:32 where I'm at. I'm on the West Coast in Washington State. So I don't know what time code you're in, but I should have it up probably by 1 o'clock today in our articles section on TorahResource.com. You can find that by going to TorahResource.com, hover over library, and then go down to articles, and they're in alphabetical order. Okay. So next week, we are not going to have a regular show because it is the 4th of July. And so we are going to take a week off of Messiah Matters. However, I want to make this clear for those who are supporters, who are, and if you are a supporter of Messiah Matters, or if you are, here's the other thing: if you are if you have a recurring donation at TorahResource.com and you don't have access to Messiah Matters More, then email me. I'll get you on that list right away. Rob and I will do at least a mini show. Maybe we'll actually touch on Is It Kosher? And we can share part of that on the regular YouTube, but it'll be in our Messiah Matters More. So there will be something for our listeners, our supporters in the Messiah Matters More next week. And we took last week off of posting something. I don't know if we're going to post something this week in Messiah Matters More, but we will certainly make up for whatever we've missed next week in Messiah Matters More. So be looking for that. A big thank you to all of our supporters. And it looks like, I'm sorry, Andrew says, where is that? So that is if you go to TorahResource.com and go to the Messiah Matters page, which can be found by hovering over Torah Resource, then go down to Messiah Matters and click on that. Over in the right-hand sidebar, there's something that says Become a Supporter, and right under there is an orange or a yellowish orange-ish button that says supporters area. I think it says something to that effect. Click on that, and as long as you're logged in, you will be able to go right into that area. We have articles that are not published yet. We have videos that are exclusive, that don't get posted anywhere else in that section, and it's all for our supporters and the people who support Messiah Matters, because it's our way of saying thank you. And so check it out. Okay. We have saved probably one of the longer discussions we were going to have today. Maybe that'll be our discussion. Anyway, yeah. So a big thank you to everybody out there. I hope that everybody has a great 4th of July, right? Good 4th of July. Don't blow anything up. And we will we will miss everybody next week, but we'll come back the week after, which I believe will be the 14th. Ready and waiting, and hopefully, and I believe, actually, praise the Lord, already it looks like somebody has already helped Rob get money for a new board. So hopefully we'll come back and Rob will have everything all fixed
Praise
up.
God.
Praise the Lord. And we'll have everything all fixed up, in our audio and our video, and everything will be perfect. So, yeah, all right.
Final thought. In the 3-year Torah portion, pursue righteousness, right? What does that mean? And what does it mean to twist when judgment is twisted? This is from Deuteronomy 16. What does it mean when justice is twisted? And if scholarship is it possible for scholarship to be twisted? And is there a possibility for scholarship to be pursued in a just manner? That's what we're trying to apply here.
Helen says, I miss you guys sending them via email. I think, we never actually did that, Helen. I think that's actually, we sent that to you because you asked a specific question that we answered in Messiah Matters More. We've never sent them by email, but we certainly could. We could send our supporters new notifications if they wanted to be notified every time we posted a new Messiah Matters More. That's something we'll think about. Maybe we'll have that worked out by next week. Because right now there's not, I think that'd be an easy fix. Okay. Please don't forget to send us emails. chag@TorahResource.com. chag@TorahResource.com. I'll even bring up the phone number right now, 253-465-3205. We really rest our entire show on what you guys ask and the things that you say. And basically one criteria, and that is to make sure that whatever it is glorifies our great God and Savior, Yeshua the Messiah. Why? Because Messiah matters.